Hey friends. Um Today I've got a bit of a thing that I'm kind of sitting with and maybe wrestling with is the right word. I don't know. But basically there was a situation recently where I watched myself kind of do something impulsively, and and almost as soon as I did it, I felt this kind of darkness about it. It felt heavy immediately, and of course, my first impulse once I felt that was to deny it, to try to want to deny it. I didn't deny it, but I wanted to deny it. I wanted to pretend like no, 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 I'm not really feeling that. Um, and kind of and rationalize why it was actually the right thing to do. But I didn't do that. I kind of let myself see, like, ugh, okay, that was a mistake. And what it showed me when I just kind of stared at it for a little while was a pattern of basically it comes down to wanting to be seen. That was the phrase that came to me, wanting to be seen. And kind of feeling like in the situation, if I didn't do this and if I didn't kind of do it quickly, if I didn't, basically it was like my compulsiveness sort of rationalizing itself. It said, if you don't do this now, then you might miss the chance. And it was, again, one of those things where I kind of knew, even as I was doing it, I was like, I kind of know this is wrong, but I'm just going to do it anyway. It's like my kind of stuck my head in the sand and just did it. And of course, woke up this morning and had, there's A, some repercussions from it, and B, just a crappy feeling around it. And so as I looked at it, it was like, oh yeah, it's this wanting to be seen and somehow being afraid. It's tied in with the injustice complex, my sense of which I think if you've been watching my last couple of posts, I've been describing a complex that's kind of specific to me, although I'm sure other people have it too, where I tend to go to war with things that don't feel just. And particularly when it's like I feel like I somehow might be cheated or I might be treated unfairly, then I can get very, especially internally, worked up about it. And one of the things I'm working through right now in my entire sort of life and practice is to notice that pattern when it shows up and not act on the compulsive actions that it's proposing. And so I think yesterday was kind of a moment of failing to do that, failing to catch it in time and kind of letting it run. And what I noticed from it was as I did that, and as I then watched the sort of like largely internal but also partly external repercussions of that play out, I realized something about just my experience in general, which is that all of my anxiety, any anxiety I feel, and I'm not saying I experience a ton of anxiety, but I'm saying when I do, it's always tied to a complex like that, like wanting to be seen or feeling like I might be cheated out of something, out of my due credit. And what showed up this morning really clearly was when I act out of that impulse, it's like stepping onto the merry-go-round of that experience again. Because of course, it's kind of like I was saying the other day, when I in my inner injustice warrior mode, I go bravely into battle against injustice in my mind. And but by activating that part of myself, and by pouring a bunch of energy into that pattern, what I'm really doing is not going to war with injustice. What I'm really doing is manifesting circumstances of injustice in my life. That's what I'm actually doing, is attracting those things into my life again, because the message to the universe is, I haven't learned my lesson here. I haven't actually gotten past this, so please hit me with it again. Let me see it up close and personal just one more time, so that maybe I can recognize it for what it is and take a healthy approach through that pattern, which is to not engage with it, and basically claim ownership of my own emotional experience beyond and separate from this kind of fixation on justice, or on the equitableness, or on how fairly I feel like I'm being treated, or whatever, however that manifests in each situation. There's a acting on those impulses that appear to be preventive measures, or that appear to be the actions that would prevent the disaster that we're afraid of. Those very actions are the ones that are actually spinning the merry-go-round and keeping us on the ride longer. So, I kind of just had one of those moments, kind of beginning yesterday and then trickling over into today, that just felt like I gave the merry-go-round a good spin. And so that's always kind of like an icky feeling. But it's only helpful in the sense that I think that I'm experiencing the repercussions of that type of action both more immediately than I might have in the past, and also more intensely than I might have in the past. In other words, the discomfort that I've caused myself, and the sense of, I wish I hadn't done that, oh, here I go on the ride again, is more direct and kind of right in front of my face than it might have been in previous times. So I take that as a sign that I'm sensitizing myself to the difference between acting kind of with integrity and from a place of connection to my heart, because my heart never does that kind of thing. My heart always knows. And the difference between that and then not doing that, and acting and letting my kind of compulsions drive me, because ultimately it's also all predicated on the idea that I can not be seen, or that I would be unfairly treated, is predicated on the idea that I need to be seen. In this case, that's not always how it manifests, but in this case, need to be expressed, or else I don't have value. And that is its own fallacy unto itself. Just that is a fallacy. Forgetting the whole injustice side of it, whether or not it's fair or not, the way in which I am seen or not seen or whatever, just that notion is already kind of flawed. And it's sort of a way in which I see there's something kind of pernicious that can happen, where we connect with source, or whatever we call it. We connect with that energy dimension beyond ourselves, and things start to come through us, and the ego says, ooh, look at me go. And it's like, source is like, no, it's not you. Don't get it twisted. It's not you. But the ego doesn't really do that. The ego doesn't do not me. The ego does me. So the ego kind of has this way of co-opting impulses from source, and then sort of wanting to take personal credit for what is spiritually bestowed. And that's that's its own whole kind of like mishmash of real, that's where things can get really kind of, like that's the difference between like a genuine spiritual guru and a cult leader. That's where the lines get, and it might, there might be some discrimination necessary there. It might not always be obvious on the surface, but there's a difference, right? There's a difference. We all know there's a difference. And I was on a call with a dear friend and client the other day, and she said something to the effect of, when I'm in this place of just total generosity, I recognize that I'm not the one creating this. I'm just the one recognizing it. So in other words, it's like there's something happening in the situation where inspiration and potential possibility is present. And she was saying that her role in it is not to have created that potential, but merely to be there and be clear and be present, and to then recognize it. And that's just a beautiful way of articulating what it means to let things kind of flow through us, and truly let them flow through us. Not to say that we're letting them flow through us, but really our ego is trying to grab hold of it and act like it's really me. It's really me that's flowing through it. I'm the one flowing through me. But genuinely let things come through and know that we don't own them. Know that the notion of owning them is itself sort of irrational and completely illogical if we're really looking at the picture clearly. And then be okay with that. Be okay with not needing to be seen. That's kind of the lesson that's kind of coming through for me. Is like all my anxiety around anything, piano, whatever it is that I'm doing, especially especially in the realm where I feel like I'm kind of in my creative core, where my genius resides. Any anxiety I have in those domains comes from wanting it to mean something about me, wanting it to somehow give me something, result in something for me. That's where all the anxiety comes from. As soon as I don't have that, as soon as I'm not worried about that, I'm not resonating with that, music can flow through, insight can flow through, love can flow through. It's just such a profound difference. And so I think, I'm trying to take this experience of kind of, putting my foot in it a little bit and making a misstep. I'm trying to register that and really sort of internalize the consequences of that, and then not do that anymore. So that's where I am today, people. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you. I love you. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you tomorrow.